Admiral Vorak stood on the bridge of his massive warship and looked at the screens showing Earth's solar system. His ship was called the Dominion's Fist, and it was the biggest and strongest ship in the Krellian Empire's fleet. Behind him, more than 500 other warships waited for his orders. Each ship carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The alien admiral's 4 eyes scanned the intelligence reports about humans one more time. He could not hide his disgust as he read about these primitive creatures. According to his spies, humans had only learned to travel between stars 200 years ago. Their weapons were weak. Their ships were slow. Most importantly, they only had 5 warships to protect their entire home system. 5 ships, Vorak said to his tactical officer. Kresk. His voice carried the same tone someone might use when discussing insects. They dare to stand against the might of the Krellian Empire with only 5 ships. Kresk's mandibles clicked together in what passed for laughter among their species. The odds are 100 to 1 in our favor, Admiral. Perhaps we should ask them to surrender now and save ourselves the trouble of target practice. Vorak turned his attention to the main display screen. It showed a 3-dimensional map of the human solar system. The 3rd planet from their star was called Earth, and it held billions of these soft-skinned bipeds. Their technology was so backward that they still used chemical rockets to move between their planets. Their fastest ships could barely reach half the speed of light, while Krellian vessels could travel 10 times faster. The intelligence reports painted an even more pathetic picture. Human society was divided into hundreds of small nations that constantly fought among themselves. They had no unified command structure. Their military leaders were chosen through popularity contests rather than proven combat ability. Most damning of all, they had never fought a real space battle. Their 5 warships had never seen actual combat. Admiral, called out the communications officer, we are receiving a transmission from the Human Defense Station. Vorak's eyes narrowed. The humans wanted to talk. This was expected. Most primitive species tried to negotiate when faced with overwhelming force. Some offered tribute. Others begged for mercy. A few even tried to bargain with information about their neighbors. Put it through, Vorak commanded. The main screen changed to show the interior of what appeared to be a human command center. The creature standing in the center wore a dark blue uniform with strange markings on the shoulders. He appeared to be middle-aged by human standards, with graying hair and calm brown eyes. Behind him, other humans worked at various control stations. I am Admiral Hyunwoo of the Earth Defense Force, the human said. His voice was steady and clear. I assume you are the commander of the approaching fleet. Vorak was surprised. The human spoke perfect Krellian, which should have been impossible. According to the intelligence reports, humans had never made contact with his species before this moment. How could this Admiral Hyunwoo know their language? I am Admiral Vorak of the Krellian Imperial Navy, he replied in his own tongue. You will surrender immediately and prepare your species for integration into the Empire. Resistance is futile. Hyunwoo listened to the translation device at his side, then smiled slightly. I appreciate the directness of your offer, Admiral Vorak. However, I must respectfully decline. Instead, I suggest that you withdraw your fleet from our system immediately. The bridge of the Dominion's Fist fell silent. Every Krellian present stared at the screen in disbelief. A species with 5 ships was telling an armada of 500 to retreat. The audacity was beyond anything they had encountered in 47 conquered star systems. Vorak's 4 eyes blazed with anger. You dare to threaten the Krellian Empire? Your pathetic fleet could not damage a single one of our escort vessels, let alone our main battle line. Perhaps, Hyunwoo replied calmly. But I felt it was only polite to give you the opportunity to leave peacefully. We humans prefer to avoid unnecessary conflict when possible. On the human side of the communication, Captain Jinnah stood beside Admiral Hyunwoo and watched the alien commander's reaction. She was a brilliant woman in her 30s who specialized in reading enemy behavior patterns. The Krellian admiral was following the exact script they had predicted. His arrogance was complete, which meant their plan had the best possible chance of success. Behind them, Commander Duyun monitored the energy readings from the approaching alien fleet. His instruments showed that the Krellian ships were powerful, but used old-fashioned technology. Their weapons were designed for overwhelming firepower rather than precision. Their shields were strong but inflexible. Most importantly, their formations were textbook perfect, exactly matching the patterns in captured Krellian military manuals. Lieutenant Hei-Wan sat at the tactical station and studied the approaching fleet's movement patterns. She was the youngest officer on the command staff, but her intuitive understanding of space combat was legendary among the human fleet. As she watched the alien ships advance, she felt the familiar calm that came before battle. Everything was proceeding exactly as they had hoped. Admiral Vorak cut the communication and turned to his officers. "Prepare the fleet for combat operations. I want a demonstration of our power before we begin the main assault. Select 10 ships from the forward screen and have them destroy one of the human vessels. Make sure the others can watch as their pathetic defenses fail." "Which ship should we target, Admiral?" asked Kresk. Vorak studied the tactical display showing the 5 human ships. 4 were larger vessels that appeared to be cruisers or destroyers. The 5th was much smaller, probably a scout ship or corvette. He pointed at the smallest target. "That one. The tiny ship at the rear of their formation. Once we destroy it, the others will understand the futility of resistance." What Admiral Vorak did not know was that the tiny ship he had chosen was actually the most dangerous vessel in the human fleet. Lieutenant Hei-Wan's corvette, Inchin's Arrow, carried technology that would have seemed like magic to the Krellian Empire. Hidden beneath its modest exterior were weapons and systems that represented 2 centuries of human preparation for this exact moment. As the 10 Krellian ships moved toward their target, Admiral Hyunwoo gave a small nod to his officers. The real battle was about to begin, and the aliens had no idea what they were facing. The 100-to-1 odds that seemed so favorable to the Krellians were about to become meaningless. Humanity had learned long ago that wars were not won by numbers alone, but by the willingness to do whatever it took to protect their home. The 10 Krellian warships moved through space toward Lieutenant Hei-Wan's small corvette, like predators closing in on helpless prey. Each alien vessel was 3 times larger than the human ship and carried enough weapons to level a city. Their energy shields glowed with power as they prepared to demonstrate the futility of human resistance. Admiral Vorak watched from his command chair with satisfaction. This would be quick and educational. The destruction of one small ship would show the humans that further resistance was pointless. After that, the remaining 4 vessels would surely surrender, and the conquest of Earth could proceed without additional delays. "Target locked on the human corvette," reported his weapons officer. "All attack ships are in position. Fire at will," Vorak commanded. "Make it spectacular." The Krellian ships opened fire simultaneously. Dozens of energy beams and plasma missiles streaked toward Hei-Wan's vessel. The firepower was enough to vaporize a space station, let alone a single small ship. Vorak smiled, showing his sharp teeth. In moments, the first human blood would be spilled. But something impossible happened. The small human ship suddenly accelerated to a speed that should have torn it apart. The Krellian targeting computers lost their lock as Inchin's Arrow moved faster than their sensors could track. The energy beams and missiles passed through empty space where the corvette had been just microseconds before. "What?" Vorak stood up from his chair. "How is that possible?" His tactical officer, Kresk, stared at the sensor readings in confusion. "Admiral, the human ship is moving at impossible speeds. Our computers cannot explain how a vessel of that mass can accelerate so quickly without being destroyed by its own inertia." But the real shock was yet to come. Suddenly, there were not 1 but 7 identical human corvettes moving through the Krellian formation. Each ship appeared to be real on the sensors. Each one was firing back at the alien vessels with weapons that seemed far too powerful for their size. "Multiple targets," shouted the weapons officer. "I count 7 human ships where there was only 1 before." Admiral Vorak's 4 eyes widened in disbelief. The humans had somehow multiplied their ship or created perfect copies. Either possibility was beyond Krellian technology. His forces were now facing an enemy that could duplicate their vessels at will. The truth was both simpler and more sophisticated than Vorak realized. Humanity had spent decades perfecting holographic projection technology. Hei-Wan's ship could create 6 false images of itself that looked completely real to enemy sensors. While the Krellians wasted their ammunition shooting at illusions, the real Inchin's Arrow danced between them like a deadly butterfly. Hei-Wan's hands moved over her controls with practiced ease. She had trained for this moment her entire adult life. The corvette spun and twisted through the alien formation, its advanced engines allowing maneuvers that violated everything the Krellians thought they knew about space combat. The young lieutenant's ship fired precisely aimed shots at the Krellian vessels. But instead of trying to destroy them, she targeted their engines and weapon systems. One by one, the alien ships found themselves drifting helplessly in space, their crews unharmed but their ships completely disabled. "Impossible," Vorak roared. 10 ships cannot be defeated by one small vessel. But the evidence was right there on his screens. 9 of his attack ships were now floating dead in space. The 10th was retreating as fast as its damaged engines could carry it. The human corvette hung in space nearby, apparently unharmed despite being outnumbered 10-1. Captain Jinnah watched the battle from the bridge of her destroyer, Busan's Pride. She smiled as she observed the alien admiral's confusion. The Krellians were learning their first lesson about humanity. They should never assume that size determined the outcome of a battle. "Admiral Vorak," came Admiral Hyunwoo's voice over the communication channel. "Your ships and crews are unharmed. We can return them to you in perfect condition if you choose to withdraw your fleet from our system." Vorak's rage was beyond description. His species had conquered dozens of worlds and never once had they been humiliated like this. A single human ship had made fools of 10 Krellian warships. The shame would follow him for the rest of his life if he allowed it to stand. "You think one lucky victory means anything?" Vorak snarled. "I have nearly 500 ships remaining. Your pathetic tricks will not work against the full might of the Krellian Empire. I was hoping you would be more reasonable," Hyunwoo replied sadly. "Very well. You leave us no choice." The human admiral made a gesture to his officers. All 5 human ships suddenly changed course and began moving in different directions. To the Krellians, it looked like the human fleet was finally breaking apart in panic. "They are running," Kresk announced. "The human ships are scattering through the asteroid belt." Admiral Vorak felt a surge of satisfaction. Finally, the humans were showing proper fear. "All ships pursue. I want every human vessel destroyed before they can escape our system." The massive Krellian armada surged forward like a tidal wave of destruction. Nearly 500 warships spread out to chase the 5 fleeing human vessels into the asteroid belt that lay between the 4th and 5th planets of the human solar system. What Vorak did not realize was that he had just made the greatest tactical mistake of his long military career. The humans were not running away in panic. They were leading his fleet exactly where they wanted it to go. Commander Do-yoon, aboard the heavy cruiser Tegu's Hammer, led over 100 Krellian ships deeper into the asteroid field. His ship moved between the floating rocks with impossible precision, always staying just out of weapons range of his pursuers. The alien vessels followed eagerly, certain that they would soon corner and destroy the fleeing human. Lieutenant Haewon's corvette drew another group of enemy ships along a different path through the asteroids. Her vessel's incredible speed and maneuverability allowed her to navigate through spaces too narrow for the larger alien ships, forcing them to take longer routes around the bigger rocks. Captain Jinnah commanded the 3rd group of human ships as they led their own pursuers deeper into the belt. She watched her instruments carefully, counting down the distance to a specific point that had been marked on her charts for over 50 years. Admiral Hyunwoo remained with the main human force, making sure that Admiral Vorak himself followed them into the trap. The alien commander's flagship and nearly 200 other ships chased the human vessels deeper and deeper into the asteroid field. As the pursuit continued, Vorak began to feel the first stirrings of doubt. The human ships were moving through the asteroids with a familiarity that suggested they knew this area very well. Their navigation was too perfect, their course changes too precise. It was almost as if they had been planning this exact chase for years. The truth was even more unsettling than that. Humanity had been preparing for this battle for over 2 centuries. Every asteroid in the belt had been mapped and catalogued. The largest ones had been secretly modified for purposes that Admiral Vorak was about to discover. "Admiral," his sensor officer called out nervously, "I am detecting unusual energy readings from some of the larger asteroids." "What kind of energy readings?" Vorak demanded. "I am not certain, sir. The signatures are unlike anything in our databases." Admiral Vorak felt the cold touch of fear for the first time since the battle began. The humans had led his entire fleet into an asteroid field that they clearly knew better than he did, and now his sensors were detecting mysterious energy sources hidden among the rocks. The fleeing human ships suddenly stopped running and turned to face their pursuers. All 5 vessels hung motionless in space, waiting. Admiral Hyunwoo's voice came across the communication channel one final time. Last chance, Admiral Vorak. Withdraw now, and your fleet can leave unharmed. Vorak's answer was to order his entire armada to open fire on the human ships. Nearly 500 alien vessels unleashed their weapons simultaneously, filling space with deadly energy. But the humans were no longer where the weapons were aimed, and the asteroids around the Krellian fleet were no longer just floating rocks. Admiral Vorak sat in his command chair, staring at the tactical display that showed the complete destruction of his invasion plans. Over 400 of his ships floated helplessly throughout the asteroid belt, their weapons disabled and their engines dead. The remaining vessels hid behind rocks like frightened children, afraid to move in case they triggered more hidden traps. His communications officer looked up nervously. Admiral, we are receiving surrender requests from 17 ship commanders. They are asking permission to abandon their vessels and request rescue by the human forces. Vorak closed his 4 eyes in shame. In less than 2 hours, the most powerful fleet the Krellian Empire had ever assembled had been reduced to a collection of floating scrap metal, and the humans had done it without destroying a single ship or killing a single crew member. Denied, he said quietly. No Krellian officer will beg for mercy from primitives. But even as he spoke the words, Vorak knew they were false. The creatures his species had dismissed as primitive had just demonstrated military capabilities that were centuries beyond anything the Empire possessed. Their coordination was perfect, their tactics were flawless, and their technology was so advanced that it seemed like magic. Captain Gina monitored the alien communications from her position aboard Busan's Pride. Her translation computers were picking up conversations between Krellian ship commanders that revealed the growing panic in their ranks. Many of the alien officers were beginning to realize that they had walked into a trap that had been prepared for decades. Admiral Hyunwoo, she reported, the Krellian fleet is requesting permission to send rescue shuttles to their disabled vessels. Several ships have lost life support power and need immediate assistance. Hyunwoo nodded from his position on the command station. Grant the request. Our automated defense platforms will provide safe corridors for their rescue operations. We will not allow their people to die because of their admiral's pride. The decision sent shockwaves through the Krellian fleet. Even in defeat, the humans were showing more concern for alien lives than the aliens showed for their own people. Rescue shuttles began moving between the disabled ships under the protection of the same weapons that had defeated them. Commander Do-yoon used the lull in fighting to reveal another surprise that the Krellians had not expected. His ship Tegu's Hammer opened hidden cargo bays and began deploying medical support drones to assist with the alien rescue operations. Medical assistance drones are standing by to help with injured crew members, Do-yoon announced on an open channel. Our automated medical systems can treat most common injuries and illnesses found in carbon-based life forms. Admiral Vorak watched in disbelief as human medical drones moved alongside Krellian rescue shuttles. The species that should have been begging for mercy was instead offering aid to the people who had come to conquer them. It was a level of civilization that the Empire had never encountered. Lieutenant Hae-won brought her corvette Incheon's Arrow closer to the largest concentration of disabled Krellian ships. Her sensors detected that several of the alien vessels had crew members who were injured during the gravitational mine activation. Without waiting for orders, she began coordinating rescue efforts. Krellian vessel Talon of Wrath. This is Lieutenant Hae-won of the Earth Defense Force. Our sensors show you have injured crew members on Deck 7. We are sending medical assistance immediately. The response from the alien ship came after a long pause. Human vessel, why are you helping us? We came here to destroy your world. Hae-won's reply was simple and direct. Because it is the right thing to do. Our fight is with your leader's decisions, not with individual soldiers who were following orders. The conversation was heard throughout both fleets. Krellian crew members began to understand that they were facing an enemy unlike any their empire had ever encountered. These humans fought to defend themselves, but they showed mercy to the defeated and compassion to the injured. Admiral Vorak received a private communication from his second-in-command aboard the heavy cruiser destroyer's Edge. Admiral, the humans are offering to repair our damaged ships and provide supplies for our journey home. They are asking nothing in return except our promise to leave their system peacefully. Impossible, Vorak replied. No species offers aid to an enemy fleet without demanding tribute or surrender terms. Nevertheless, sir, the offer appears genuine. Their repair drones are already working on ships whose commanders accepted the assistance. The humans seem more interested in getting us to leave than in humiliating us further. Admiral Hyunwoo opened a direct communication channel to Vorak's flagship. The human admiral appeared on screen looking tired but determined. Behind him, his bridge crew worked efficiently to coordinate the complex rescue and repair operations taking place throughout the asteroid belt. Admiral Vorak, I want to make you an offer. Hyunwoo began. Your fleet is defeated, but your people are not our enemies. We will repair your ships, provide medical care for your injured, and supply enough food and fuel for your journey home. In exchange, we ask only that you leave our system and spread word of what happened here. Vorak studied the human commander's face, looking for signs of deception or hidden motives, but all he saw was genuine concern for the welfare of beings who had come to destroy his world. Why, he asked finally. Why show mercy to those who would have shown you none? Because destroying your fleet would accomplish nothing except creating more enemies, Hyunwoo explained. We want to live in peace, Admiral, but we will defend ourselves if attacked. Today you learned that humanity cannot be conquered. We hope your empire will learn from your experience and choose a different path. Captain Jinnah watched the exchange while monitoring reports from throughout the battle zone. Human repair teams were working alongside Krellian engineers to restore power to disabled ships. Medical teams were treating alien injuries with the same care they would show to human patients. It was a demonstration of humanity's true strength, the ability to remain civilized even in victory. Commander Do-yoon coordinated the technical aspects of the repair operations. His engineering teams had studied Krellian technology for decades, preparing for this exact situation. They could restore basic functionality to the alien ships without giving away the secrets of human technology. Estimated repair time for all Krellian vessels is 18 hours, Do-yoon reported. We can have their entire fleet ready to depart by tomorrow morning. Local time. Lieutenant Haewon continued to pilot her corvette through the repair zones, ensuring that human medical and engineering teams could work safely. Her ship's sensors detected every movement in the asteroid belt, ready to respond instantly if any Krellian vessel attempted to resume hostilities. But no such attempt came. The alien crews were too busy processing what they had experienced to think about continuing the fight. Many of them were beginning to realize that their empire's intelligence about humanity had been completely wrong. Admiral Vorak finally accepted the human offer of assistance. The decision was the hardest he had ever made, but the alternative was to watch his crews die slowly in disabled ships. We accept your terms, he said quietly. The Krellian fleet will withdraw from your system as soon as repairs are complete. Thank you, Admiral, Hyunwoo replied. I know this is difficult for you, but I believe it is the right choice for both our peoples. As the repair operations continued, word of the battle began to spread beyond the Sol system. Long-range communications from both human and Krellian sources carried news of the impossible victory throughout the galaxy. Other alien civilizations that had been watching the invasion with interest suddenly began reconsidering their own plans for human space. The message was clear. Humanity appeared weak and divided, but they possessed something that overwhelming technological superiority could not overcome. They had the determination to prepare for any threat and the coordination to act as a single organism when their survival was at stake. By the end of the day, the 100-to-1 odds that had seemed so favorable to the Krellians had become a warning to the rest of the galaxy. The species from Sol system could not be conquered by force, and they would defend their freedom with capabilities that defied expectations. Admiral Vorak spent the night reviewing everything that had happened, trying to understand how his empire's greatest military triumph had become its most humiliating defeat. The answer was disturbing in its simplicity. They had underestimated an enemy that never underestimated itself. The asteroid belt erupted into chaos as hundreds of hidden weapons platforms came online simultaneously. What Admiral Vorak had assumed were just floating rocks revealed themselves to be carefully disguised military installations. Each one had been hollowed out and converted into an automated defense station over the course of many decades. Energy beams lanced out from asteroids that had appeared completely normal just moments before. But these were not the wild, destructive volleys that the Krellians expected. Instead, the weapons fired with surgical precision, targeting specific systems on the alien ships without attempting to destroy them completely. Admiral Vorak watched in growing horror as his Mighty Armada was systematically disabled by an enemy he still could not fully see. Krellian ships throughout the fleet found their engines suddenly failing, their weapons offline, their navigation systems scrambled. But their life support remained intact and their hulls were not breached. Report, Vorak demanded as his own flagship shuddered under the impact of precisely targeted energy strikes. Admiral, we are taking fire from over 300 separate positions, his tactical officer reported. The asteroids themselves are attacking us. Every rock in this belt appears to be a hidden weapons platform. Kresk's mandibles clicked nervously as he studied the sensor readings. Sir, the human ships are coordinating the asteroid defenses. They are directing the fire patterns with impossible precision. The truth was even more remarkable than the Krellians realized. Each human ship was equipped with advanced artificial intelligence systems that could communicate with every automated defense platform in real time. The 5 vessels acted as conductors of a massive orchestra, coordinating hundreds of weapons to create patterns of fire that herded the alien fleet like sheep. Captain Gina stood on the bridge of Busan's Pride and watched her tactical displays with satisfaction. The battle was proceeding exactly according to their centuries-old plan. Her ship was connected to every defense station in a network that allowed split-second coordination across thousands of cubic kilometers of space. Target Group 7 is moving towards Sector 12, she reported to Admiral Hyunwoo, redirecting platforms 40 through 55 to intercept. The asteroid weapons responded instantly to her commands. Energy beams reached out to strike the engines of specific Krellian ships, forcing them to drift toward predetermined positions where additional platforms could disable their remaining systems. Commander Do-yoon guided his heavy cruiser, Tegu's hammer through the chaos with practiced ease. His ship's true purpose was finally revealed as hidden weapon bays opened along its hull. The vessel that had appeared to be a simple cruiser was actually a mobile command center equipped with the most advanced combat systems humanity had ever built. Initiating pulse cannon barrage, Do-yoon announced calmly, targeting Krellian Formation Delta. His ship fired weapons that seemed impossible for its size. Energy pulses struck with enough force to disable battleships, but again with the precision to avoid causing casualties. The Krellian vessels targeted by Do-yoon's barrage found themselves drifting helplessly, their crews unharmed but their ships completely powerless. Lieutenant Haiwan continued to pilot her corvette Incheon's Arrow through the heart of the battle. Her ship's incredible speed and agility allowed her to stay ahead of the Krellian vessels that were still trying to target her. But now she had a different mission than simple evasion. Haiwan led the largest group of alien ships toward a region of space that appeared empty on their sensors. The Krellians followed eagerly, believing they finally had the small human vessel trapped. Admiral Vorak himself ordered his flagship to join the pursuit, determined to personally witness the destruction of the ship that had humiliated his forces. "We have them now," Vorak declared as over 100 Krellian ships converged on the small corvette. There is nowhere left for them to run. But Haiwan was not running. She was leading the aliens directly into the most sophisticated trap humanity had ever constructed. As the Krellian ships reached the apparently empty region of space, invisible gravitational mines activated throughout the area. The mines had been positioned over the course of decades, each one carefully placed to create overlapping fields of artificial gravity. When activated together, they formed a 3-dimensional maze that could tear apart the largest warships. If they tried to move in the wrong direction, the Krellian vessels suddenly found themselves caught in gravitational fields that pulled them in multiple directions simultaneously. Ships that tried to advance forward were yanked sideways. Vessels attempting to retreat were dragged deeper into the trap. The mighty alien warships became helpless prisoners of forces they could not see or understand. "What is happening?" Vorak demanded as his flagship was pulled off course by invisible hands. "Why cannot we control our movement?" His engineering officer studied the readings frantically. "Admiral, we are caught in some kind of gravitational anomaly. Multiple sources are affecting our navigation. If we try to force our way out, the stress could tear the ship apart." Admiral Vorak began to understand the true scope of what humanity had accomplished. This was not a desperate last stand by a primitive species. This was a carefully planned campaign that had been in preparation for longer than his own species had known humans existed. The 5 human ships moved through the chaos with perfect coordination, their advanced AI systems allowing them to navigate safely through gravitational fields that would destroy any other vessel. They worked together like fingers of the same hand, each knowing exactly what the others would do before they did it. Admiral Hyunwoo opened a communication channel to address the trapped Krellian fleet. His voice remained calm and respectful, even as his forces held hundreds of enemy ships at their mercy. Admiral Vorak, your fleet is now completely under our control. Your ships can be safely released if you agree to withdraw from our system and promise never to return. We take no pleasure in this conflict, but we will defend our home with everything we have. Vorak stared at the communication screen in disbelief. His enormous armada had been defeated by 5 ships and a bunch of modified asteroids. The 100-to-1 odds that had seemed so favorable now appeared meaningless. Numbers meant nothing when facing an enemy that fought with perfect coordination and had turned their entire star system into a weapons platform. How? Vorak asked quietly. How did a primitive species accomplish this? Yunwoo smiled sadly. We learned long ago that being peaceful does not mean being helpless, Admiral. We have spent 2 centuries preparing for the day when someone would try to take our freedom away. You are not the first powerful empire to underestimate humanity, and I suspect you will not be the last. Captain Jinnah monitored the communications between the 2 admirals while keeping track of the disabled Krellian ships. Her tactical computers showed that over 400 alien vessels were now either completely disabled or trapped in gravitational fields. The remaining ships were scattered throughout the asteroid belt, hiding behind rocks and afraid to move. Commander Do-yoon reported that all human ships remained fully operational and ready to continue the battle if necessary. His vessel's advanced weapons systems had barely been tested, and the automated defense platform still had enough power to fight for days if needed. Lieutenant Hae-won brought her corvette to a stop near Admiral Vorak's flagship. The small ship that had started the battle by embarrassing 10 Krellian vessels now floated calmly beside the enemy command vessel, no longer bothering to evade or hide. The gravitational mines can be deactivated, Hae-won announced to the alien admiral. Your ships will be free to leave as soon as you give the order to withdraw. We have no desire to hold you prisoner or cause unnecessary harm to your crews. Admiral Vorak looked around his bridge at the faces of his officers. Every one of them showed the same expression of shock and disbelief. The mighty Krellian Empire, conqueror of 47 star systems, had been defeated by a species they had dismissed as primitive. The worst part was the realization that the humans had never intended to destroy his fleet. Every weapon, every tactic, every strategy had been designed to disable rather than kill. These supposedly backward creatures had shown more mercy and victory than his own empire had ever shown to the defeated. For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Vorak began to understand that technological superiority meant nothing without the wisdom to use it properly. The humans had turned their apparent weakness into strength, their defensive position into an advantage, and their small numbers into perfect coordination. The battle was over, but the war had never really begun. Humanity had won before the first shot was fired, simply by being better prepared and more determined than their enemies had ever imagined possible. 18 hours after the battle had ended, Admiral Vorak stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the final repairs being completed on his fleet. Human engineering teams worked alongside Krellian crews with an efficiency that amazed him. These supposedly primitive beings had not only defeated his armada, but were now helping to send it home. The human repair drones had restored power to every disabled ship. Medical teams had treated over 300 injured Krellian crew members. Supply vessels had provided enough food and fuel for the long journey back to Empire space, and through it all not a single human had asked for payment or demanded anything except the promise to leave peacefully. Admiral, his communications officer reported, all ships are reporting ready for departure. The human defense platforms have powered down their weapons and cleared safe corridors for our exit from the asteroid belt. Vorak nodded slowly. In 40 years of military service, he had never experienced anything like this. The humans had won a complete victory and then spent an entire day helping their defeated enemies. It was a level of civilization that challenged everything he thought he knew about warfare and conquest. Captain Jinnah monitored the Krellian fleet's preparations from her position aboard Busan's Pride. Her sensors showed that every alien vessel was indeed ready to depart. More importantly, her psychological analysis programs indicated that the enemy crews were no longer hostile. The combination of defeat and unexpected mercy had fundamentally changed their attitude toward humanity. Admiral Hyunwoo, she reported. Long-range sensors are detecting other alien fleets throughout this region of the galaxy. At least 12 different civilizations have ships positioned within 50 light-years of our system. They appear to be waiting to see what happens next. Hyunwoo smiled grimly. Then let us make sure they receive the right message. Commander Do-yoon sealed the final repair drone back into its storage bay and reported to the fleet commander. All assistance operations are complete, Admiral. The Krellian fleet is fully operational and ready to depart. Our automated defense systems remain online but are set to peaceful monitoring mode. Lieutenant Haewon brought her corvette Incheon's Arrow alongside Admiral Vorak's flagship one final time. The small ship that had started the battle by humiliating 10 Krellian vessels now served as an escort to ensure the alien fleet's safe departure from human space. Admiral Vorak, she transmitted, I will guide your fleet to the edge of our defensive perimeter. Our automated systems will recognize your ships as friendly and will not interfere with your departure. The irony was not lost on Vorak. The same ship that had made his forces look foolish was now offering to protect them during their retreat. He wondered if the young human pilot understood the psychological impact of her gesture. Probably she did. These humans seemed to understand warfare at levels his species had never imagined. Admiral Hyunwoo opened a final communication channel to address both fleets. His words would be recorded and transmitted throughout the galaxy by ships from dozens of different civilizations. Today has demonstrated something important about humanity, he began. We are not a warlike species. We do not seek to conquer or dominate others. But we will defend our freedom with everything we have. Any civilization that comes to our system in peace will be welcomed. Any that come with hostile intent will face the same fate as Admiral Vorak's fleet. The message was clear and direct. Humanity was offering friendship to those who wanted it, and promising destruction to those who chose aggression. The choice was up to each civilization to make for itself. Admiral Vorak knew that he should remain silent and simply depart with whatever dignity remained to him. But something compelled him to respond to the human admiral's words. Perhaps it was the need to acknowledge what he had learned. Perhaps it was simple respect for a worthy opponent. Admiral Hyunwoo, he said slowly, my empire has conquered 47 star systems. We have defeated civilizations with technology far superior to what we thought humanity possessed. But we have never faced an enemy like you. He paused, struggling to find words for concepts that his species had never needed to express. We came expecting to find primitives. Instead, we discovered that we were the primitives. You fight not just with weapons and ships, but with unity and preparation, and a determination that we cannot match. Hyunwoo inclined his head respectfully. Your empire is powerful, Admiral Vorak, but power without wisdom leads to defeats like this one. We hope your people will learn from this experience and choose a different path in the future. They will, Vorak replied with certainty. Word of what happened here will spread throughout the Empire. No Krellian fleet will approach human space again without careful consideration of the consequences. The conversation ended, and the massive Krellian armada began its slow departure from the Sol system. 500 ships that had arrived as conquerors left as refugees, their crews forever changed by their encounter with humanity. Captain Jenna watched the alien fleet disappear into hyperspace and then turned her attention to the long-range sensor readings. The other civilizations that had been monitoring the battle were already reacting to what they had witnessed. Several fleets were changing course away from human space. Others were sending diplomatic signals indicating their desire for peaceful contact. Admiral, she reported, we are receiving friendship offers from 7 different alien civilizations. They want to establish trade relationships and cultural exchanges. It appears that our victory has created more opportunities than threats. Commander Do-yoon began the process of returning the asteroid defense platforms to their dormant state. The weapons would remain ready for instant activation, but they would once again appear to be simple floating rocks to casual observation. Humanity's greatest defensive secret would be preserved for future use if needed. Lieutenant Haewon piloted her corvette back toward Earth, her mission completed successfully. The small ship that had played such a crucial role in the battle would soon return to its normal duties of patrol and reconnaissance. But the legend of its impossible victory over 10 Krellian vessels would spread throughout the galaxy. Admiral Hyunwoo remained on the bridge of the orbital defense station New Seoul and Contemplo,